This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 84. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin.
Happy Monday, Turbo. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing? It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
I wish it were Friday.
It's Monday.
But yeah. Somebody gotta keep the Mondays. But yeah, it sounds like if you're looking at buying a Super Series GPU, we got an interesting story to talk about on that front.
Yeah, so we've got some issues of AI is really kicking off, and there's been more demand kicking into some of the other sectors. And one of the things that's being picked up is 3 gigabyte modules of GDDR7.
Yep.
And so what's interesting is because there's a run on 3 gigabyte modules we use them as VRAM, but it can be used for a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're starting to hint or maybe hear is some trepidation that possibly we could see either a pushback or possibly just an axing of a Super Series.
Potentially.
Notoriously, there was also talk. Now, there was also some rumors that there would be a 9080, and that one of the upgrades that AMD was looking for a 9080 XT was GDDR7, and to push into that as a upgrade. If this is correct, I would guess that we're not going to see a 9080, or we won't see a 9080 with GDDR7. And even though Nvidia has a large buying pool and a large buying power,
mm-hmm.
I would guess that if it's going to eat into their profits, they may just say, no, we'll just stick with the regular, 80 series, because they're not going to go backwards. They're not going to go to a GDDR6X or something else, and it would cost too much money on a redesign to try to bring in something else. I just don't see something like that happening. If this continues, we very well could see. Now, the other half of this is it could be that we see that the Super Series is more expensive.
Yeah.
If the RAM continues to be an issue, and if it gets higher and higher, the problem is that we're seeing this across other sectors. So we're seeing RAM prices tick up. We're seeing SSD pricing tick up. A lot of these are in complementary industries. And so what's happening is AI is kicking up, and they're having to do larger scales and larger, not modeling, but data, like in-house data for their AI models.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we've seen is that hard drives have pretty much, the spinny drives have been sold out for the next 2 years from capacity.
Yeah.
And so, which isn't going to hit the consumer market, because consumer market doesn't use these drives
right
at this point. But the problem is that data centers are moving into these SSDs. That is going to have an effect on consumer pricing, because the minute you sit there and say, well, actually, if you made something with an 8 terabyte or a 10 terabyte, I'm thinking there's a pro and a con here.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's going to push, because right now I think the biggest NVMe drive you can get is 8 terabytes, right?
On the consumer market, yeah.
Yeah, on
They're
the consumer market.
on the server grade side, I think the biggest right now is around 40 terabytes. And that is, I think if I recall correctly, that's U.2 in a 2.5-inch form factor. So
But for consumers, you're
yeah,
never going to use that.
right.
So right
But
now, the biggest we have is 8. It's interesting because solid states have. It didn't take long to get to the 8,
right.
but then it hasn't gone anywhere beyond that.
Well, yeah, in the consumer market, and the eights are prohibitively expensive. I mean, as it stands, the four that I have as my primary drive in my desktop was not cheap. I think I paid 250 for it. But compared to prices 2-3 years ago for that much storage, that's a screaming deal. And I think it was worth the upgrade for me because I'm kind of too lazy to clear out my Steam library, and well, you know, I just want everything on one drive on my gaming machine anyway. But I have noticed the crunch in storage because I've been watching places like Water Panther and people who do refurbished enterprise grade drives for the more prosumer market. So like NAS drives and things like that, and everybody is out of stock on their NAS drives. Or if they do have any stock, it's kind of like the GPU situation earlier this year, where you're seeing GPUs selling for 2-3 times what the MSRP was. And so yeah, and that's just ridiculous for
Wow.
spinning Rust. I
I
just
mean,
can't see paying that.
that's very interesting. I didn't put 1 and 2 together, but yeah, I'm lucky I bought because I bought Water Panther, their
Mhm.
refurbished consumer grade drives. And I bought a number of drives, and wow, they are. I mean, it's easily quadruple as much as I paid. I mean,
Yeah.
they want $132 for a 4 terabyte,
Yep.
and I think I spent $99 for 14s.
Yeah. And I was looking at the 12s and 14s a couple weeks ago, and they were in the $130 range, but they were out of
Wow.
stock.
Yeah,
And
and it's interesting. They don't have
that's
any
the
of the
problem.
12s. Yeah, they don't have any 12s or 14s right now.
Yeah.
I'm wondering because they have, anyways, kind of interesting. Well, they have nothing on the expense line.
So if you're
Um,
looking to do anything on the storage front, wait until stock recovers, because as I think as these AI data centers start moving away from spinning Rust and over to solid state, we're going to see the bottom fall out of the market on spinning Rust. But that could also lead, I think, to longer term troubles for manufacturers of spinning drives too, because spinning drives are starting to fall out of favor. They're great for cold storage, but when you buy a drive for cold storage, you don't need to buy replacements that often, because it goes online long enough to write the data and then goes right offline, and you stick it in a box.
yeah,
Um, So, keep an eye out there. We're probably going to see the bottom drop out if you're looking at building a home NAS, or like me, you have a machine where you just like to stick a bunch of drives in it on a El Cheapo RAID controller and rock and roll there, or if you're using Unraid or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting how the AI stuff is hitting multiple segments of the market, because I'm pretty sure that's also what's driving our GPU prices through the roof now. Because that bubble took over for the long popped crypto bubble, and GPU prices have just been nuts. I have a feeling we're going to end up coming up with some sort of ASIC that's AI specific, rather than relying on GPUs. And then GPUs will, kind of like they have for crypto, fallen back to, okay, we're going to use these just for development, not for actual running AI stuff.
I think the notion of what we're hearing and we're going to see in the next 6, 9, 12 months, and it may even go longer, is, look, the notion is that whether it's now or, within the next the end of the month, we're going to start seeing probably, if you're in the market for a solid state, or RAM, I think that's most consumer. I don't think most people are using hard drives. You probably want to be looking at that, and you might be a little shocked at the pricing. I did look, and the RAM that I got in both of my recent systems that I built, the Amazon pricing had more than tripled since when I bought it. So if you need systems, or if you think you're going to need RAM, or just know it's going to be more expensive, and you probably want to get it now while you still can.
On the other hand, if you're looking to upgrade and you have spare parts laying around, buy your replacement now and then sit on your old stuff for a little bit, because you might be able to recover that cost.
Yeah, you very well might be.
The used market is potentially poised to go kind of nuts here pretty quick.
So next topic that kind of hit my radar, we've seen Strix Halo, and we've seen them in some portables, we've seen them in some laptops, we've seen them more in like AI focused, like laptops, like server, like a workstation replacement in a laptop, and that's primarily where we've seen most of the 395 like the AI 395 models,
right?
And the nice thing with the AI 395 is that it had 16 cores, but it also had the 40 CUs for graphics. Well, last week a new model showed up on some benchmarking software, and it is the Strix Halo 388. Now, what's interesting about this is that in the past you had to go to the 395 to get the 40 CUs, so you could actually get some better gaming performance. If you went to the 390 or to the 370, you always had smaller graphics clusters, CUs. This is an interesting, because this is now an 8-core 16-thread CPU, but still with the 40 CU 8060 Super. Or sorry, S. It's not Super. It's an S. So I think where this is going to be, this is going to position it very well into gaming laptops. I think this is going to position it very well into some more attractive, less expensive NUX gaming devices. Because the notion is that you're still keeping that gaming process, like the 8060S, which is still very good. And while it's less cores, still 8-core 16 threads is still really good.
That's what I'm running on my desktop. I mean, that's what you're running. So
that will be a very interesting product to see what form factor we see these in. I don't think we're going to necessarily see these really attractive in any of the AI stuff. I really think this is more of a gaming consumer model more than anything else. The question is going to be, what does the RAM configurations look like? Because that's the big thing of what's attractive to the AI markets on the 395 is that it's shared system and GPU memory.
Right. Yeah, it's the PS5 style architecture.
So a lot of people love that because they can sit there and say, look, I need 16 gigs to run my operating system on my ancillary stuff, and now I have 180 gigs for my AI modeling.
Right.
And with um, the ADCUs, it's actually a really good AI device. So this will be interesting because it's going to be, it could be still in that realm of an AI device, but I really think that AMD is wanting to get this more into the consumer side, and maybe have some differentiation between those. Because the honest truth is if you sit there and say, "Do I need 16 cores?" No, I probably don't for gamers. Um, you know, realistically speaking, 8. You could possibly make the argument it's 6. 6 cores, you start getting like the majority of the performance, and as you add cores, it's not as beneficial. So
Right.
3 really interesting. I'm My guess is because they're already selling 395s that maybe these are 395s that don't clear validation.
Yeah,
But
could be. Could
that
be.
could be a very interesting model to keep an eye out for. I'm gonna guess we're gonna start seeing that in some gaming laptops. That's
Now,
my guess.
now, are they giving this part the AI moniker? Because if they're not, then that tells me that they
I
might
think
just
they
have
are.
chips. Yeah,
Well, I
if
don't.
it
It's a leak, so I mean, it's
yeah,
um,
it could be that these are chips, these are 395s um that like you said didn't pass muster, but maybe it's just the NPU that's bad, or maybe some of the cores on the CPU don't quite fit, or
I
something
mean,
along those lines.
in the CPU pass mark, it was labeled AMD Ryzen AI Max plus 388. It
Okay.
was an 8 core, 16 thread with the 8060S.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Um,
probably something where it was like the CPU then didn't quite fully validate out for a 395 or something
or
along
I
those
think
lines.
it
Yeah.
could be them just saying maybe this is something. Now, what's interesting, the TDP on it is um, 55 watts.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know if that's any different comparative because I'm not super on top of the
Off the
395
top of
because
my
I haven't,
head,
but
I want to say the
um,
395 was 65 watts, but I could be wrong on that.
and I think that might be right. But tablets for sure would be in this realm.
Hmm.
I think laptops for sure because that would be way less than discrete.
Yeah.
The real question is do we think that this is something that might make it into some handhelds?
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I
if you had this in a Steam Deck, now the problem is that the usage, because the Steam Deck uses the Z2 Extreme,
mhm.
and that's like 27 watts. This would be double. So it'd be interesting to see what we see this in.
Yeah.
Um, you might see this in a chunkier handheld, um, but my guess is that you're going to either see them in larger devices with bigger batteries or plugged in. Now, what what might be really really interesting is to start seeing, because what I instantly jump to
Hmm.
is Steam Machine.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to see a Steam Machine like this.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think a lot of people are hoping that the next generation of the Steam Deck kind of becomes the Steam Machine, because as it stands, it almost already is with the dock, and especially when you start factoring in some of the aftermarket docks. Because I've been playing with my Steam Deck for the last handful of days, and I played a heck of a lot of Mega Blanc, and it's it doesn't feel like it's missing anything. Um, and so, yeah, I think if we found a way to shoehorn a bigger CPU in there, that's just gonna give it that much more headroom to run things. Like I was playing Megabonk and I was playing F1 2021 on my Steam Deck. Now, F1 2021 does kind of have some corruption issues, but it plays beautifully and it looks great on the OLED. Um, so what I would say is if they are looking at doing a Steam Deck 2, which they've said they're not going to do something unless there's a huge hardware change, this could be the hardware change they've been looking for. Because the Steam Deck now is what, 3 years old? Yeah, because it was 2022 it came out. And that would fit because I just bought one and everybody knows that when I buy hardware, they always announce the next one just after I'm outside the return window. But it is what it is. So I'll take the hit for all y'all so you can have a better Steam Deck too. But I want to see a lot more options growing out of these sorts of devices. And the only way we're going to get that is better battery technology, number one. And number two, far more efficient CPUs. And if you can take, the Strix Halo and tune it down to fit within the same envelope that is currently in the Steam Deck, which I think it's like 25 or 30 watts is the max. For some reason I want to say 40, but only for short bursts. I could be wrong on that. I don't remember the specs exactly, but if you could have a system like that where it had that headroom and there was a dock that just turned it into a steam machine on your TV and gave it the extra cooling so it could unlock that performance, the Switch would be completely finished. And I think that would be problematic for both Sony and Microsoft on the console front. Because at that point, you've got a handheld that has as much processing power and as much memory as a full-blown console. It's in the same price class and it converts. It can do handheld or docked, and it runs Linux. So run Open Office on it if you really want to, and put it into desktop mode. It almost kills off laptops too, doing that. The only drawback there is you have to bring a keyboard and mouse with you to do that, but that doesn't take up a whole lot of space. And most people I know who travel have their favorite travel keyboard and mouse anyway. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways this could go, and we're just going to have to play the wait and see game.
Yeah.
So speaking of wait and see, if you bought a Corsair desktop, you're waiting to see a BIOS update for your 13th and 14th generation CPU, because Corsair's cooking.
Oh my gosh. I saw this on a couple of sites, and then you follow the link into YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And I ran across this video last week that's in the video cards article.
And I was like, I was just surprised because I didn't think that this would be a problem.
But are you really? I mean, look, we've both owned Corsair stuff for a long time. And what is your gut reaction when I say iQube?
Oh, it's garbage.
Yeah. Well, and like AMD drivers, recently it's actually been pretty good. I have had little to no issues with it until the very latest update that just came out this weekend. It's starting to give me trouble again. But Corsair really, really struggles with the software side of things. The only part of their product stack, in my opinion, that doesn't struggle is their Elgato stuff. And I think that's because Elgato was a separate company for quite a while, and so they actually had some competent developers. But Corsair, when they do their own stuff, they make great hardware. I love their keyboards. Their mice are great. The memory is fantastic. Their cases, with a few exceptions, are phenomenal. The IQ Link stuff works great for the fans. It's just the software. It's like a Samsung phone. The hardware's great. They just ruin it with the software. And guess what they're doing with their motherboards? They ship a computer with a Z7, was it Z790, Z970 chipset? I forget what it is. With basically what looks like it's Asus Z790P. So they ship a system with what looks like a bone stock Asus Z790P. And if you try to load the update from Asus website, it refuses because Corsair went in and put some custom junk into the custom area, and Asus can't update over that with the default BIOS. So if you overpaid for one of these computers, you've probably gone through 3 or 4 RMAs by now with Intel, waiting for Corsair to come out with something. And your best bet is to rip that board out and replace it with a board that has the BIOS update at this point. And good luck getting an affordable board for 13th and 14th gen, because I don't think they really exist that much anymore. Do they?
I mean, I think that's part of the problem. I mean, I actually am wondering, because I don't think like Micro Center typically is probably a little bit better than others. What boards can you get? You actually looks like you can, but there's limited options. Yes, you can. They are a little on the pricey side. In fact, my local Micro Center has 2 of the Z790s in stock. Everything else is a B, so a B760. I don't know the difference between these.
Yeah, you don't want to put your 14900K on a B series. Well,
especially board, when you spent how much money, building a machine like this.
You're not building, you're buying. That's the problem.
I mean, at $260, I'd make the argument that you actually should be looking at a processor bundle, because at $260, freak. I mean, you're halfway into a 9800X 3D, which is going to beat the snot out of it.
Yep.
Because
it's not going to catch itself on fire.
As long as it's not an ASRock board.
Well, yeah. Friends don't let friends buy ASRock.
That's very true. But I mean, look, there's some pretty decent boards. I mean, here's an X870E, 9800X 3D, and RAM. Okay, so for $599, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
So I mean, heck, you'd make the argument that even like a 7800X 3D bundle would be better than the 13th, 14th gen at this point, because I mean, that just totally sucks.
Yeah.
So,
and if you bought an EVGA board, you're kind of in the same boat.
Actually, here's a 14700K bundle with motherboard, CPU, and RAM for $399. So it would actually be better for you to go out and buy a bundle than would it be to buy an individual board.
Yep.
And that's the problem we're running into, is that Corsair is putting these people in horrible spots, and it's just going to keep burning boards. And then it's like, they have the BIOS. All they have to do is take a team or a dude to go in there and change the splash screen. And I'm assuming that's the only difference, is they take the BIOS and it has a Corsair splash screen instead of an MSI or whoever board partner they're using.
Yeah, it was Asus, but yeah, no,
it would be nice if Asus even was like, okay, so here's a one-time thing that does this, and Corsair sucks. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and Asus may not be able to do that too, because one of the things that Asus Easy Flash does is it checks the checksum to see if it's valid, and Corsair probably, if they don't have the right checksum there, it's probably going to be an issue. But
the question,
that's the thing.
This goes back to the same thing. Mm-hmm. This is why you don't buy pre-built systems.
Yeah, well, you don't buy them from companies that just started doing pre-built systems.
But I mean, you sit there and say, would you buy a Corsair pre-built system right now? No, you wouldn't. Just
like I wouldn't buy an Intel-based system.
Well, no, but I mean, that's it. And I think, what's interesting is that Corsair hasn't responded.
No. I mean, they tweeted they tweeted today, all excited about the new Corsair store they're opening up. And they didn't even respond to my ask if they're going to have thumb drives with BIOS updates for 13th and 14th gen system owners. It's kind of sad. Yes, I did troll Corsair on Twitter. I don't care. But they deserve it.
Well, and this is where you start. This is where dumb companies do keep on doing dumb things.
Yeah.
And this is the definition of a company doing really dumb things.
Yeah.
And that's it. So notion is, don't buy a Corsair pre-built, and be very selective of who you buy pre-builts from. Look, there's plenty, of good companies that do pre-builts out there. Okay. There are good ones. Okay. There are good ones that just use like off the shelf, regular, parts.
Falcon Northwest is a good example.
Yeah.
I mean, not a sponsor, but I would have very little qualms about recommending them. Puget Systems, another one. But again, you pay a huge premium for buying from them. They do cool stuff, but it's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you.
And
so, on that bombshell, that Corsair still sucks.
Very expensive bombshell because they're burning CPUs.
Well, maybe not. Actually, the question is, it seems like Intel's the one who keeps sending. Here's the question: how many CPUs can you get from Intel before they're like, no, you're done?
That's actually a really good question, because I wonder how many shops have gotten turned down on that, because the Matt's Computer Services, the YouTube channel that I saw the video from, and that's listed or linked in the article, said that this one customer has had to have their CPU RMA'd 3 or 4 times in the video. If I were Intel, I'd just be like, you know what? If this is for the same customer, we're going to say no until Corsair pushes a BIOS fix. So sorry, your computer's
I don't know.
rigged.
Can they? That's a good question.
I think they can. I honestly think that at this point, they have released the fix for the issue. CPUs no longer burn if you're running the correct BIOS version. The problem is Corsair hasn't released the correct BIOS version. And from my past experience working at Intel, you simply run a loader to put in the custom stuff into the BIOS and then ship it to your customers. I don't know that it's that simple for Corsair, but in the stuff I've had experience with, it was. And I just really, Corsair, there is no excuse for that. And on that bombshell, I'm going to say thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your evening, and we appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time. And until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.